All right, cryptocurrency has had a transformative year in 2025, marked by bullish sentiment, regulatory clarity, and growing institutional interest across Asia Pacific. As Malaysia's crypto market matures, questions around adoption, taxation, and innovation are shaping the next phase of growth. So joining us today is Tang, the General Manager APAC at Luno Malaysia, to unpack the key trends driving the industry, explore the outlook for 2026. All right, Aaron, firstly, we see that the market dynamics and institutional outlook. In your recent commentary, you noted a bullish outlook for Malaysia's crypto market in the second half of 2025, with institutional appetite rising globally. So to what extent is Luno preparing for a sustained institutional inflow, and how close are Malaysian family offices and also corporates to mainstream crypto adoption, please?
Morning, Nabila. Thank you for having me. The question around sustained institutional inflow and how close Malaysia offices and corporates are. So we've been preparing all year. We've been preparing since last year, actually, for institutional adoption. And in many of our markets overseas, we are seeing tremendous growth. And I think that 2026 is going to be a big year for Malaysia institutional crypto adoption. A couple of hints that we see in the market, why I'm saying this. Number one, regulatory clarity. So we've seen a lot of good news coming from the regulators, whether it's Bank Negara, whether it's Securities Commission. I think there's a recognition in Malaysia that digital assets are the future, and that there's definitely a lot of support from the government agencies and regulators. And I think one interesting data point is also, last September, we organized the first digital asset conference for institutional investors, for institutions. It was the first of the kind in Malaysia, and a very promising turnout. We had so many banks coming in to see us. So we're seeing a lot of good hints that people are preparing, institutions are preparing, and I think 2026 is going to be massive.
That's a positive outlook going into 2026. But Malaysia's approach of treating crypto as a security has provided structure to the industry. So how have recent regulatory changes in 2024 to 2025 influenced investor confidence and user growth? Because looking ahead, which upcoming policies, whether in custody and also stable coins or investment rules even, that do you believe will most shape market scalability and also innovation?
A couple of very exciting ones. So I'll talk about a few. So one is Bank Negara's involvement. So as we know, Bank Negara now has a digital asset innovation hub, which is run, of course, in collaboration and in support with some of the other regulators, for example, the Securities Commission. So very interesting innovation hub. And then we know that Bank Negara is open to ideas, for example, like tokenized deposits, local Malaysian ringgit stablecoins. So again, it is early days, right? But I think some of the ideas, some of the projects mentioned potentially in the consultation papers, those are very exciting, both for the worlds of digital assets and also financial institutions. Now, we also know that our primary regulator, which is the Securities Commission, we know that they are also going to allow more types of digital assets, more types of tokens in 2026. So we can look forward to our customers having more options in 2026. I think the final one I wanted to mention is that there's a whole lot of discussion around tokenization. So the act of actually taking an established asset, for example, whether it is a mutual fund or whether it's an ETF, the act of taking that and putting it on the blockchain to get tremendous technological advances and benefits, that talk has gone very hot all across the world, and I think we're going to see a lot of that happening in Malaysia. Again, the outlook and the encouragement from regulators there is tremendous.
All right, let's look at the taxation, also investor behavior. With clearer tax treatment of crypto income being discussed in 2025, how do these tax rules influence everyday traders' decisions and also Luno's product strategy? Does transparent tax guidance encourage long-term holding or push more short-term trading at the same time?
The good news about the tax clarity is that it's not very different from what we're actually used to. So it is basically, the rules are, if you're using digital assets, if you're trading as a form of income, in other words, it is your second job or it's your primary source of income, then you should be taxed according to income taxes, right? However, for the investor segment, the people who are investing in digital assets to basically build their wealth, so for example, if they're investing in unit trusts or other forms of investments, the tax treatment is actually the same, in the sense that they would not be taxed on capital. So actually, it's not too different from what we used to. Actually, it's very, very similar to what we used to. And I think the clarity just gives everyone a lot more confidence. I think even those who are actively trading, those who are very legitimate and want to make sure that they are in compliance with all the rules and regulations, this clarity is good because now they can declare all their income taxes according to the regulations. And then I think for investors, it just gives everyone much more confidence that, their investments are not going to be taxed as a form of income, but rather as a capital gains.
We know that Luno being the first regulated platform offering Shariah-compliant ETH staking. So what has the response been from Muslim investors so far? And do you see scope to expand Shariah-compliant products beyond Ethereum?
We've been very, very encouraged by the support actually from our Muslim investors, and I'll just put that into numbers. So before we launched the Ethereum staking certification by our advisors, Sharia certification by our advisors, that was roughly 1 year ago. And since that 1 year, we've seen the amount of staked assets go up by roughly 30%. So it is a huge, huge achievement for us because we saw tremendous uptake by our investor segment. But I think more importantly, the comments that we got, not just quantitative, right, qualitative comments that we got from our investors. People were saying that, I can now invest with confidence. According to my values, right, I can invest with confidence. So that was really, really nice to see. And we definitely have a long roadmap of Sharia compliance assets up ahead. For example, last 2 months, we actually announced Sharia compliance staking for Solana and Cardano. So that's 2 other assets. And then definitely next year, we'll be looking to add more and more to our Sharia compliant roadmap.
But despite all that confidence, we know that Malaysian user base grows past 800,000. So in your opinion, what are your top priorities in upgrading platform security, custody standards, and also fraud prevention, especially with scams evolving rapidly in 2025 and moving forward?
Yeah, I'm proud to say that we've actually surpassed more than 1 million customers in Malaysia already. So that's very, very happy news for us. The concerning thing is, of course, as you mentioned, Nabila, the amount of frauds and scams and so on. I think where we are focusing the majority of our efforts on would be definitely more on the education and awareness, because unfortunately, the number one way that scammers, fraudsters actually target our customers is not that they are, breaking into customers' accounts or so on. It is unfortunately customers are clicking a suspicious link, or customers, they are downloading a malware into their own device. And this unfortunately will allow the attackers to start doing things to their systems, their accounts and so on. So I think the number one thing that we need to get out more and shout out louder is that customers have to make sure that they're not downloading strange attachments from online, or they are not sharing their credentials with unknown parties and so on. And it can be hard for customers to make the differentiation. It can be hard because some of these impersonation scammer apps, they look very, very similar to the real thing. However, if you look a bit deeper, they are actually scammers. So I think we're going to focus a lot more on shouting out on these education and awareness campaigns. And I think it's what we need to continue doing throughout the new year.
All right, we need to know your insights as the GM's regional role. Since taking the APAC role, what regional differences in crypto adoption have surprised you the most, and how is Luno tailoring its strategy for markets like Malaysia, Indonesia, Australia, and beyond that?
It's quite interesting because every market has its own character. So for example, I'll differentiate maybe in Malaysia. Malaysia is very much more of an investor market. So there are a lot of people who are buying and holding, buying, and price goes up, price goes down. You may see sentiments, comments, but you actually see a lot of people just holding their digital assets. So they're in it for the long term. And I would say that that's the majority of Malaysian investors. Now, if you go to a market like Indonesia, for example, the market there is very, very much more, I would say, a trader market. So people are very, very actively trading. And they're not just trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're trading some of the more exotic and interesting coins as well. Now, if you look like a country like Australia, Australia is very much a first world country. So the behavior is that more of, again, an investor market. And you'll see that in Australia, people tend to hold their assets more as opposed to sending out to global platforms and so on. So very, very interesting country by country perspective. But I think the most important thing for us, our strategy is the trust. So whether it's Malaysia, Indonesia, any other country in Asia, the most important thing is for us the trust that our customers have with us. We never want to take that for granted. And I think next year is also going to be big for us, the institutional focus. So getting digital assets into the hands of institutions.